Who went there to drive Al-Qaeda out, quite frankly.
And since Al-Qaeda is out, we have no reason to want to stay there.
Exactly. We don't
no
have
strategic reason.
No strategic reason to stay there. You know, militarily, we can still keep an eye on Al-Qaeda from bases within Afghanistan itself, just like we've done in Iraq now. Withdraw, you know, to bases in case there's any problem. We're moving, you know, but arm the local people themselves to do the fighting themselves, you know, because what is happening now, regardless of how much we train the Afghan army, regardless of how much equipment we give the Afghan army, I do not think they are capable of defeating the Taliban, because the Taliban have, you know, ideological motivations to fight. There's a difference between an army that has the motivation to fight and an army that just wants to get paid. Okay, the Afghan army at the moment don't have that ideological zeal to be able to fight the Taliban. The Taliban, they are motivated ideologically, religiously, and otherwise, you know, to fight. You see, and that's the big difference between, you know, the army of Karzai, you know, and the Taliban themselves. You see, you have the Taliban everywhere. Now, Mullah Omar, who's the spiritual leader of the Taliban, is still in Afghanistan. But we can find him because nobody really knows what he looks like. You know, they know he has one eye he lost during the war against the Russians, but nobody ever saw his picture. They don't even know what he looks like. So he might be walking around in Kabul and nobody knows, you know. So he's still leading the insurrection in Afghanistan. And so now that a lot of members of Congress are questioning, particularly members of the, you know, Democratic Party are questioning, hey, why are we sending 40,000 more soldiers to Afghanistan? It doesn't make sense. You know, what we should be doing now is trying to, you know, lessen our presence there, put more money into building roads, schools, infrastructure.
Like they were planning on the
Exactly, infrastructure, you know, schools and all those things to create employment for people. Because what you have right now, 60 to 70% unemployment. So all those who are unemployed, what do you have? They join the Taliban, where they can.
They have no alternative.
They don't have any alternative but to join the Taliban and get some money, you know, to feed their families and all this. They won't be walking around and growing the opium. The Taliban also, you know, are part of that opium growing group because that's how they get money to buy their equipment. Now, the gross GDP now is about, they have a budget of 2 point, I mean, they have an expenditure now of $2.7 billion, but they have, you know, an income, the government's income is about $900 million, okay, which is, they're already running, you know, on a deficit. A big deficit, okay. So, but the opium trade is about $3 billion, illegal, okay, and it doesn't go into the government coffers. It goes into the Taliban covers, and, you know, because it's illegal, the government doesn't control it, okay? And so what does the government, what does the United States government want Karzai to do? They say, well, you know, you got to control that opium growing and all this. Karzai say, well, okay, fine. What are those farmers going to be growing? How can they make money? They got to have some. Okay, if you want to destroy the opium trade and poppy and all these crops, that's fine. But those farmers got to have an alternative crop, okay? But the thing is that most of where those opium is grown is controlled by the Taliban. Karzai's, you know, authority doesn't extend beyond Kabul, like most people know. He doesn't even control the northern part of the country, which is under the control of General Dostum, or the western part of the country in Herat, which is under, you know, Iranian influence, or the Tajik, you know, territories, which is under, you know, control of other factions. And that's a big problem, you know. Now people say, well, why is President Obama trying to talk with the Iranians and all this? Yes, he's trying to talk with the Iranians because in a way Iran has some influence in Afghanistan. Most of Western, you know, Iran, Western Afghanistan, you know, has, you know,
and that could at least give us an opportunity by negotiating with Iran, at least give us an opportunity to get out of there.
That's correct. Exactly. Okay. Give us some opportunity to get out of there.
Dr. Madu, we're just about coming to the end of this show, as you know, and we just thank you for just bringing that information, that relationship information by to us today. And I think that a lot of folks will see in what you're saying here some of the real problems that we are having. And of course, let me also encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition, and to remind them that most of these topics can be seen on our site on YouTube. And again, let me thank you for being with us tonight, this morning, and again, good morning.